¿Qué tal? Ahora nos va a tocar visitar una iglesia griega ortodoxa en estas visitas que estamos haciendo de distintos centros de prácticas religiosas. En esta ocasión vamos a visitar la iglesia griega ortodoxa de Santa Bárbara y esto ha sido posible gracias a la gentileza y amabilidad del reverendo Bob Fox, con toda amabilidad aceptó hacernos una visita guiada por el templo, explicándonos muchos de los símbolos de los que está dotado el templo, sobre todo por dentro. Es un templo muy bello, así que no pierden detalle. Vayamos pues. Here we are with Father Bob. He's in charge of the Greek Orthodox Church here in Santa Barbara, and he agreed kindly to show us the church and the temple.
Absolutely. So this church in particular was built so that you would feel like you were on an island in Greece. And fortunately for us, it fits in very well with the Santa Barbara landscape as well. So the overall architectural style of the church is something that you will see throughout Greece, very much representative of the style of architecture you would find there. It is inside, and the shape of the whole building is a traditional Byzantine architecture because it's built in the shape of a cross with a dome at the center of it. So initially, when Christians were underground, they were worshiping in the catacombs, and it was an unpopular or even illegal religion in the Roman Empire. People were worshiping underground, and then Constantine came along with the Edict of Milan. All of a sudden, Christianity became legal, and Christians were able to come up and worship, and they now had greater numbers, and they need to find places where they could gather in large numbers to worship instead of just in homes. And there was a beautiful building that was used for civic events and speakers, and that was a building that was in a style known as the Basilica, which was a long corridor with a rounded apse at the back that was used as what's the word? Well, an old style amplifying system. And it was the curvature of the church. It would project the speaker's voice forward. And so that's what Christians took as their home as well. And they would do the liturgies. They would do the services up at the front by the curvature of the church, and would project to the people that were down the aisle. It was very natural for later on for the church to develop into the shape of a cross. We put crosses everywhere in our church. Might as well make the whole floor plan in the shape of a church as well. And it was opened up, and the symbolism and the teaching moments that allowed were just expanded and grew. The church the format of the church that grew out of that was based on the Jewish temple, which our faith had come from, and is broken into three sections of the court, the holy place, and the Holy of Holies. And we'll see that when we go inside, how the church is broken into those three sections. And there's also, so there is a linear progression through the church of it being in three sections, but also a vertical progression of the people that are on the ground, the saints that are worshiping with us, and then the dome, as I mentioned, representing the heavens where God himself dwells. And we'll look inside the dome and see how we represent that as well.
This is the beautiful church. So it has also all of the elements of the Orthodox Christian architecture, but also another important trait specifically of this church is its Greek elements. It's Mediterranean elements. You can see the olives.
And we can't see from this viewpoint, but we even have the blue dome on top to match the white building, which so everyone will recognize as a typical Greek landmark.
If we see that from the...
You can see it from the side if you're over there.
Okay. Well, so, and all in white. It looks like a Greek, actually a Greek small town.
Yes.
And it's all very Mediterranean.
Absolutely, as with most immigrant groups, when they tried to gather together as a community, they did it around the most important thing in their lives, which was their faith and their religion. So the same thing happened in Santa Barbara.
Yep.
And actually, the turn of the century is when the Greek community started pulling itself together. And they were eventually able to, the community first joined together in the late 40s. I believe it was 1949 that that this was first established. The St. Barbara Parish was first established and allowed to function as a parish.
It wasn't this one, this building.
Not here, no.
Oh.
Not in this building. They were worshiping in different places.
Oh, how old is this building?
This building was finished in 1986. We just celebrated our 30th anniversary a while ago.
And the view from here is really, as you mentioned, like being with one of those.
That's the idea. And being up here on the side of the mountain, it's very peaceful and it's a great little retreat center.
How is that you can manage to coexist with different versions of Christianity? And not only Christianity, but also there's a new mosque down there in Goleta, and some other expressions of religiosity. Do you have, as a church, some link with them? There's something together?
I personally have a link with the with a man that goes to the mosque. There are some interfaith gatherings around in Santa Barbara. How do we constructively work with each other? It's through that community, that interfaith group that gathers together.
It's possible to have this dialogue. I mean, that's the point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So this is the first, as you mentioned, the interior of the church is divided basically in three spaces in a horizontal way, so to speak.
Yes.
This is the
narthex.
The narthex, okay. And what's the function of this space?
The function of the narthex, theologically and practically, is I like to call it the spiritual mudroom. First, and there's your time to strip off all of your outer layers and all of the mud that's on your boots, so you can clean up and walk into the house. So that's the idea of this place. It's to shift gears. It's to come in and to put aside all of the cares of the world and all the dirt that's on your feet from everything you've been walking through in the world, and to turn your mind towards God and to focus your mind on prayer, so that you can prepare yourself to walk in and to encounter God in the sanctuary. The way we do that is when people come in, they'll stand here and pray. They'll also take candles, and there's symbolism behind everything that I can point out. And just as an example, we look at the light that we when we light candles, we never just light them with a match. We always light them from another candle and we pass it on. And that's actually a big part of our Easter services. But it's something that we do in all of our services. You take the light from a light in the center, remembering that Christ is the light of the world, but then he also called us to be lights of the world. We light our own candle and put it down, and that's our witness that we are here. And it's a symbol of our prayer that we're offering while we're here. Then we'll come forward and we'll venerate the icons. And we show them honor in the traditional way, as it has always been done in the Mediterranean throughout the Eastern world, which is by bowing and kissing them. Of course, during COVID, we're not doing that. So now we'll pray, we'll make the sign of the cross over ourselves, we'll bow in reverence, and turn our hearts and minds towards God. And for instance, this icon we're looking at right here is Saint Barbara, who is the patron saint of our church.
Saint Barbara?
Saint Barbara. Mm-hmm.
Same as
the name of the city, yes.
But it's a different saint that the one that...
No, actually the same saint. And the reason that every saint has a feast day, which is the day they entered into the kingdom. Not the day they were born on earth, but born into the kingdom. So Saint Barbara reposed on December 4th. And then
so let's say this narthex is the first step dividing the regular world and the profane world and the sacred world of ritual, so to speak. Is that correct?
Yes.
More or less.
Using the common academic understanding, although we would say that even the outside is sacred as well. But,
yeah.
This is a special place that is a sacred space just specifically set aside for worship. Yes.
This is the nave. This is the equivalent of the nave on most Catholic churches, right?
Yes, sir. So the nave is the place where the people sit and they offer prayers. Again, the sanctuary and the symbolism of the temple of Jerusalem. This would be the holy place where the priests, people would go in and they would say prayers. So the people come here, and the pews, every place that the Orthodox Church has gone, it's taken on some of the culture and the flavor of the local people, the local culture. Our witness to that, one of them, is the pews themselves. If you go to churches in Greece and elsewhere in the Orthodox world, most often they will not have pews.
Yes,
that's something that's very popular, obviously, in the Protestant traditions in the West. And people said, "Oh, look at that! They have nice, comfortable pews. We should have pews too." So. There's a little bit of our culture. And then in Africa, it's beautiful. I went to Tanzania, and they had a whole chorus of drums that played along during the liturgy. So it's beautiful. The church has always embodied itself in the culture that it finds itself.
Second space was the narthex, the nave. What's the third space?
So the third space is behind the screen up there, and that would represent the Holy of Holies. Which is in the Jewish temple, that would be the most holy place, where only the high priest went once a year to offer sacrifices for the sins of the people. We go in there every service, and we offer a sacrifice without the shedding of blood. So we relive the Christ's Last Supper, in which he offered bread and wine as his very body and blood for everyone to consume. The gate that is that is in the middle, is our representation of the veil that would be in front of the Holy of Holies in the Jewish temple. And when it says that Christ was crucified, the veil of the temple was ripped in two. And so we have this gate that opens in the middle, and the two parts of it open up and allow everybody. It symbolically represents that everybody now has access to the kingdom, and God is able to come to us through the holy altar down towards the people.
That's why it's closed.
And that's why it's closed right now. We still recognize it as a very holy place, and nobody just wanders in there if they're not going in there for a specific purpose.
And why is that you have three images on each side?
So the images that we have are, as I mentioned to you, when the basilica was turning into the standard Greek architecture of the Orthodox Church now, even in the beginning, the church had the basilicas had a section that was marked off, and the speakers sat behind, and the people sat in front. And as to mark that off as a holy division, they would do it by putting small icons like we saw in the narthex here. And then those grew eventually into into a wall, and the icons grew, and we have this beautiful tradition of painting these particular saints on this screen, which we call the icon screen, or in Greek, ikonostasio, or iconostasis, as some people pronounce it. So we always have the same. If there are only 6 icons, as you usually see in Orthodox churches, you will have these 6 icons with one exception. So we always have Jesus Christ over on the right in the place of honor, closest to the door on the right side. And then the next place of honor is the woman that gave birth to Jesus Christ on the earth, which is the Virgin Mary, who properly is always shown with her son in our church. She is never shown alone. And then on the other side, then going back to the right, if you're going in the tradition of honor, you have the greatest man born among women, who is the prophet John the Baptist, the last of the prophets. Then going back to the other side, this is the one icon that changes. And that will always be the patron saint of the church. So in our church, it's would be St. Barbara. And that's where St. Barbara is. And we decorate her beautifully on her feast day, as I said, December 4th. And then the other 2 doors are the other 2 icons are actually doors, which you can, during the service, you go in and out of the altar.
Actual doors.
Yes. They open up, and they are the archangels that are protecting those doors.
A general image of an archangel, or
Yes.
specific archangel.
Specifically, Michael and Gabriel. And there is a procession when a deacon is serving. He will always go out the one door and in the other door, always in the same pattern. And the explanation of why you have Michael on the left side is because, well, the deacon comes out of there, and if we think of the altar area as paradise, is the kingdom of heaven, we think about when Michael is the one that ushered Adam and Eve out of paradise. And so that's where the person is coming out of paradise, the deacon as he's serving, or the priest. And then he goes back in through the archangel Gabriel, and that's the door that opens inward. It's because by his announcement to the Virgin Mary that our Savior was here, and the pathway was once again open for us to return back to paradise. We work symbolism into everything. We use as many teaching moments as we can.
That's impressive. What about vertical different spaces?
And then vertically, so as I said, this is where the people come to worship and gather. Obviously, they're here in the pews and sitting down, and this is where the church militant sits. So militant meaning they are still fighting the good fight, and they're still fighting to live and gain in virtue and grow closer to God while they're on this earth. And then the next level of the church is represented when you get to the walls, and that's where we have what we call the church triumphant. Right? The people that have already fought the good fight and have lived grown into the image of God as much as possible. And so you will always see saints painted along the walls. When we paint icons on the walls, it's to remind us of what we believe is the actual reality that these saints are here praying with us. So we can't see them with our physical eyes, so that helps us to remember that we are surrounded by this great cloud of witnesses of everybody that has succeeded in the good fight, and we are urged to continue.
But I don't see in the representation of Santa Barbara the palm. It's the symbol of the martyrs. Or do you have it? Do you use it in your representation?
Actually, if you look closer, she does have a palm branch, now that you mention it, which is the painter there probably put that as a concession of the knowledge that both the Catholic community here and the Orthodox community here chose St. Barbara as their patron saint, and it combines those 2 traditions by giving her that palm branch. In Orthodox tradition, if somebody is a martyr, they will be holding the cross in the hand. Just
the cross.
Yes, and you see St. Barbara has both of them.
Oh,